Hello, welcome to another episode of Step by Step podcast. Today it's just me. I'll be discussing something that I'm very passionate about, a difficult conversation to have. So I hope that I'm going to be as real, as candid, as honest as I can be. And in upcoming episodes, we'll delve more into this topic. So today we're going to be talking about mental health and specifically touch a little bit about high functioning depression. A few months ago, on my way to work, very early in the morning, I had boarded a PSV. And then suddenly, the driver just halted. So, in the midst of trying to figure out what was going on, he tried to show us something up the balcony. It was like third floor of a certain building. And when I looked up, I saw a man hanging from his balcony. Thankfully, he had like sheet or something of the sort draped over him, but you could see the legs and the socks, and it was disturbing to say the least. It was quite something. So that day when I went to work, I had that disturbing feeling lingering over me, and it lasted way longer than that. And it wasn't like much, I would say like a little while earlier, my sister and I were watching an episode on Red Table Talk when former Miss America's mom, Chesley, who was Miss America, when her mom came to Red Table to talk about her suicide, she had committed suicide. I think that was early 2022, January of 2022. And it was heartbreaking to see her mom and hear her read the last words that Chesley wrote to her, the last text that she had sent. And what really struck me about her case is that Chesley was successful by all standards, at least by the standards that we have as a society. She was an attorney. Towards her death, she had a job at E as a correspondent, so maybe a journalist. When her mom talks about her, she was a high achieving person by all means, quite gifted academically, in sports. She did quite well. And so her death came as a shock to many people. And what was really confusing to people was why someone with so much potential, someone who was very gifted, someone who was doing very well in life, would feel like they were too tired to be here. And so me seeing that man hanging from the balcony, Chesley's story, and many other stories makes me think that it is important for us to have this conversation about mental health, what mental illness looks like, and what high functioning depression is. A lot of times it's called the invisible mental illness, and it is called that for a reason. So I'll just read you something that I wrote on my Facebook in 2021 that I believe is a good way to start this conversation. At this point, my sister had just lost a former colleague and a friend of hers. He had committed suicide as well. While not all cases of depression or mental illness end in suicide, I think suicide is the extreme, but it is a good place for us to learn and know that things can get really bad. And now that we are still here, what can we do to make things a little better for ourselves and for those around us who are struggling? So I'll read. I wrote this on my Facebook on 29th of April, 2021. I will have a candid conversation with you today, and I hope you will hear me. Things are bad. Times are tough, and we have to do things differently if we are to keep our sanity. Let us have a real conversation about mental health. Yesterday, my sister received terrible news. A friend and former colleague of hers died on Sunday. A few days before that, my boyfriend's friend lost her younger sister. Both were suicide deaths. I have seen people around me give up the fight. I have seen how broken their families and friends were after they left. I have experienced that brokenness and pain myself. The most painful suicide loss for me happened in 2019. I still have dreams about that person to date. I was going through a difficult time myself, and the news shook me. I wondered whether we are all sick and we'll all get to that breaking point, but just at different times. The greatest pain, however, is with that person going through that difficult moment. The real pain is in their struggle to come out on top, but still end up drowning. Talking about mental health is not Western or fancy or trendy. It is a real and necessary and helpful conversation to have. This can no longer be an AOB conversation. If you're not suffering, you know a friend or family who is. You probably do not know how to help because your love may not be enough to alleviate their pain. We have to end the shame and stigma around mental illness if we are to get healthier. Just like your body gets sick when it functions abnormally, so does someone else's brain. What sense does it make then to judge and stigmatize someone for something they did not wish on themselves? Today, I will play my little part in this conversation. I will share my truth and hope it helps someone to know that there is no shame in acknowledging your weakness and your pain. Most people who know me regard me as strong, confident, outspoken, etc. For a long time, I thought I was weak and a gross misrepresentation of what people thought of me. If only they knew the battleground that is my mind and the wars that take place there ever so often. How I have failed to do many things because of the voices in my head. That I have been extremely sad and on the edge a couple of times. I take pride in saying this today because I am no longer ashamed of this part of me. It will no longer be my best kept secret. Shame will not help me, but speaking out will, and it will help others as well. I became aware of this part of me while in high school. It was mild at first, and I kept brushing it aside, hoping that it was just a dark cloud that would pass. It did not. It was not a phase. I know now that there was a big problem that needed to be addressed. I do not know if I would be at a better place had I addressed it sooner. I think I would, because just like any other condition, early diagnosis and treatment is always best. I have not sought professional help yet, but I am planning to soon. I met someone recently who shared his journey with bipolar with me. The professional help he sought helped him greatly and improved his quality of life. If you are in a bad place and in a position to seek help, kindly do so. It might not be the entire answer, but it may just be your answer or part of it. I know you know if your sad is too sad, your lows too lows, and even your highs too high to be normal. It is a tough time to be alive. The stress and pressure is real, and the economy. It is normal to be stressed out, but I think there's what that is beyond normal, and you can feel it when you're there. It doesn't need to be overwhelming to anyone else but you. It is your life, and you're the one that matters. Even normalizing stress lets it build up to dangerous levels. Mental health services should be sought even when we are healthy. It is sad that most of us lack the financial ability to even take care of our physical self. How then will we invest in our mental health? We need to prioritize mental health and come up with practical and affordable solutions. We must be part of those solutions. All those dreams, desires, and ambition will mean nothing if we are to get them but not have the mental muscle to sustain it all. This is a multidimensional conversation that cannot be wholly exhausted at one go. We have a part to play. The choices we make, for example, like the leaders we elect, the laws in place, and all the framework that is in place, including the support we give to those struggling, are some of the things we need to think critically about. We can no longer bury our heads in the sand at the expense of human life. I shared part of my journey today to normalize this conversation and to encourage someone that you can still do it. You're still strong, smart, capable, and beautiful. You're brave for acknowledging that there is a problem and working every day to not let it define you. I know the attempt at self-diagnosis by Googling the hell out of depression and other mental illness tests. I understand the physical exhaustion from your mind having no rest, from the millions of thoughts running constantly. I know how it feels to do well in many things, but still feel like you do not belong or fit in. I know this translates to doing poorly in many things for others. I know what it means to beam with great ideas one moment and to struggle to get enough energy for everyday activities the next moment. I know the multiplied stress that comes with thinking that you're at a better place only to fall deeper into the darkness. I know I cannot tell your story, but I understand your pain. The good news is there is hope. My faith in God and love for music has helped me greatly in this journey. Prayer has worked for me at the worst of times. I had got to a place where I believed healing was not possible, and I just had to learn how to cope and enjoy the better days. I do not know if this is factual, but I am open and willing to explore all options to a healthier, happier, and peaceful life. We need to do something about mental health. We need to act now. Let me know how this can be done. I smile because I believe brighter times are in the horizon. Then I attached a photo of me smiling. So 2 years down the line, actually exactly about 2 years since this was April 2021, and I still think this is a very important conversation that we must have. Every day I encounter countless stories of people who are struggling. I have my own struggles, which I have spoken to. I have taken some steps, though I know there's still things that I need to do. I was recently having a conversation with my brother, and he was asking me whether I finally got to seek the help that I've always been speaking about. I haven't sought professional help yet, though I've done 1 or 2 things to make my situation better. But I will update you once I do that and tell you how it goes, because I think it's important. It has worked for some people. It hasn't for others, but I believe it doesn't hurt to try. Like I said, it might just be the answer that someone needs. But I can say, thankfully, I am at a much better place. My faith has a big part to do with that. I pray a lot about it, and I've found some little tiny things that I include in my life daily that have helped, and I'll be speaking more about that. But largely, I know I'm not at a place that I can give professional advice on mental health. I'm by no means a mental health expert, but in upcoming episodes, I hope to have experts here just talk to us about mental health, mental illness. What are the signs? What do we need to look out for? What is too much that needs to be addressed? Conversations around that, and also people who have walked this journey and who are at a better place, or who are still struggling but have found some tools that can help them, because ideally I want everyone to have the tools to navigate so that you can be able to live a good quality life for yourself, and if it's your loved one who's struggling, how you can be able to assist. I think mental health is a very big topic, but of greater interest for me is high functioning depression, because I think that's something that most people can't understand clearly. From the stories I gave when we were starting, sometimes it's the people who are doing well, maybe academically, who are achieving success in their career, who are rich, and even in the story I told you about the man who had committed suicide in his balcony, what struck me about that particular incident is how casually the driver commented about what happened. He was like, yeah, these rich people are the ones who struggle the most, who have these things like suicide. He was just talking about it like with some kind of ignorance, but like, I believe what I picked from there is rich. So people who we view as successful. From Chesley's story, I think it's very high achieving people. And I think high functioning depression is not very visible, but we need to speak about it. And there was something I was reading, which I want to read for you. Just a site that attempts to explain what high functioning depression is. So it says, this place is called Talkspace.com. It says high functioning depression, the invisible mental health condition. And they say, it's a long article, but the part on high functioning depression says, high functioning depression is a term used to describe someone who doesn't show many outward symptoms of depression. When you're living with high functioning depression, you may appear fine on the outside, but on the inside, you're struggling with symptoms like low mood, hopelessness, lack of energy and motivation, and more. And one thing they say is that it might be common, though it depends with the context of what common is, but it's treatable. So I think in the end, the main thing that I want to tell you, if it's something you're struggling with or a loved one you're struggling with, is that there is help, there is treatment, there is a lot that can be done to make your life better. There's something else I wanted to... And another part of the article says, people with this type of depression often keep a job, maintain relationships, and meet other obligations. High functioning depression means it's easier for someone to mask their mild or severe symptoms. But this form of depression still makes life and relationships complex. So it's a battle, and I think it's something that people can't understand. Besides the things I've spoken about, sometimes it's celebrities, the most successful people, at least who we view as the most successful people, who end up committing suicide or who are really struggling, and people can't understand because they might have all the money, the fame, the comfort, everything. But I want to tell you today that high functioning depression is real. It's there. A lot of people are struggling with it. I don't know what the medical term for it is. I think that's just like an umbrella or whatever, a term that's used. So I hope when we have an expert here, they'll be able to shed more light as to the scientific, whatever, and all those things. But today I just wanted to inform you about what high functioning depression is. I hope this piques your interest to understand what this is, what are the symptoms, and what you can do for yourself or someone who's going through it. So thank you guys for listening and watching this episode. I hope you stay tuned for more interesting conversations on this space. Kindly subscribe to this podcast on YouTube. It's Step by Step Podcast. On Spotify, Step by Step Podcast. Then on my social media pages as well. On Instagram, it's Step by Step Podcast 2023. And Facebook, Step by Step Podcast. Thank you.